I'm just going to record this. So it's recording now. For those watching, Byron and I are both in Europe, and we're just discussing before recording actual stories how much we actually hate it up here. So I come here to visit family mostly, but if I didn't have family here, I'm not too sure I would actually come here for any discernible reason because I've been here, what, 3.5 weeks, and I'm just dying to go back to South Africa. Everything's small here. The roads are small, the flats are small, the cars are small, the thinking is small, the spirit is small, the psychology is small, and there's just no sense of, how can I explain, like wonder at the world. It's all like small things. Everything's just small, and I'm getting really tired of it after 3.5 weeks.
Mm.
I know, Byron, you feel a bit the same way about Europe generally.
Yeah, I mean, I'm like you. I wouldn't come here unless I had to, but obviously I've got kids on this side of the pond, and whilst I live in South Africa, I didn't need to see my kids. So, I come here to see them, and I've got business relations that I have to get involved with here. Come here for that, but yeah, man, I don't like it here that much. Um, it's amazing because we live in a third world country, right? And there's certain things that you just kind of just generally tend to expect. And whenever we kind of see it, we're always like, I bet it's like way better than this in the first world. And a good example of that is freaking the internet speeds. It's amazing how our recordings, whenever we do like recordings, whenever we're here in Europe, man, like the internet speeds are shit. And considering it's like the first world, you're like, how is it the internet speeds are so crap? And it's expensive, man, for internet. Like you were telling me the other day, you bought um some data, and it was basically the cost of your mortgage payment for the month. Like, it's crazy.
No, it is. It is. So I don't like hate it. I just hate being here for this long. And then I
Mm.
know what people will say watching the video. Oh, Europe is safe. I mean, it has to be safe because you can't do anything else other than walk around and do shit. Because you can't stay at your flat because it's small, and you're going to watch TV there, and there's no space for you. So to get a sense of peace, a sense of quiet, a sense of calm, you have to get out of your flat and have to walk around a town that's also full of people and full of cars and full of restaurants and full of everything. There's no sense of peace here. At
Nah.
home, I get peace all the time. I'd rather be in the top 1% in South Africa, which we are, compared to like the 50% of Europe. Because just the difference in terms of approach to life, the difference in terms of earning potential, the difference in terms of experiences are just so much greater as the top 1% of South Africa than the top 40% of Europe.
Yeah. So it's interesting. Let's focus on the safety aspect. And we were talking about this. London ain't that safe, mate. Like, people will come here and they'll be like, oh, but at least the UK is safe. London ain't that safe, mate. Like, you don't go to London for that much fun. But I suppose the thing that really kind of struck with me is I read this thing on Reddit the other day, and somebody asked a question. They were like, basically, it was a 2A type question. And they were like, change my mind. If you're a Brit that has no guns, change my mind as to why you feel that us in the US should have no guns. And then somebody else asked the exact same question backwards. He was like, hang on, how about I tell you as a Brit why you should have guns? And one of the first things he said was like, it was really important. So he gave a map of the size of the United States, and then he superimposed the size of the UK on it. And it's like, the UK is smaller than freaking California, which is like their smallest states in the US. And they were like, just kind of consider the size of the place. Like, it's not proximate. Then they were like, in the UK, you've got like one dangerous snake, which is the adder. And it's like you've got a couple kind of like foxes and maybe some deer in the Highlands of Scotland, and that's pretty much it. Like, there's not really a lot going on in that front. So the guy was like, why would you need a gun in that environment? On top of that, the land space between you and someone else is like meters, man. It's like literally half the time you're actually literally on top of each other. The houses are built in a row, as you know, in France. That's that terraced housing, that town housing, as they call them. It's kind of the common architecture, isn't it? It was like, imagine you're in trouble and you got to call someone. Like, what's the space between you and someone else? It's like no space at all. And so the guy was like, in that context, then put it into context as to whether or not you'd want a gun. The answer in that environment is like, well, probably not, because people can get you relatively quick, and there's no real kind of danger in the place. But therein also lies the counter problem, which is, man, this place is overcrowded. Like you come here and you try to go anywhere. I mean, you're in Paris, so you must see the traffic there, man. It's insane. And if you thought taxi drivers were bad, like Arc de Triomphe, man, like you got to go around there, and
Yeah.
it's like,
I think it's a 14-lane
do
highway
your
in a
crosses
circle.
and stuff, and you're like,
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm getting through this, but okay.
Yeah, but really the psyche of Europe is determined by the physical constraints. And I think that's the most important part. So you are safe within your physical life, safe. But the unfortunate thing with safety is that nothing else really matters. Like the ambitions of
No.
the French are quite low. The entrepreneurial spirit is completely dead in this country. People just work till 65, then they get a pension from the government, as an example. And
63 now.
yeah,
They
now it's
lowered it, didn't they?
63. So they
Mm.
know for certain that is going to happen. So people don't take risks. People don't do stuff that might, I don't know, change themselves or the world or anything like that. It's very safe, it's very nice, it's very calm, and it's absolutely fucking boring. And I'm so tired of it. And I just want to go back to South Africa. 3 more days, people, 3 more days. Then I'm back. But I mean, as a holiday, like a week or two, yeah, maybe great. But I mean, other than that, like living here is just impossible for someone who has lived in South Africa and has lived the full life of being a South African, not just someone who sort of, moans about wanting to move overseas. It's I'm really tired of it, and a lot of people want to move here. I get that, but mate, just come here for like a month or two if you can, and just see how people live. You're not your own person anymore. You really aren't.
Yeah. No, and I think it's interesting because you recall once upon a time you and I we spoke and you were asking me about the differences between South Africa and the UK. And actually, one of the first things I said to you is around the entrepreneurial spirit. And I said people here don't start businesses; they work in them. And we spoke about that. And at the time, I suppose it didn't really make a lot of sense to you, but it does now, right? I mean, like in Europe, people don't start businesses. To actually find an entrepreneur is really rare. Like in South Africa, if I were to say to you how many people I know that started businesses, it's like tons, man, it's tons. Okay, look, they weren't all, super corporate 500s and, maybe they only made enough to get by. That's cool, man. But that entrepreneurial spirit of I'm going to start a garden service or cafe or a coffee shop or whatever, that's there. And people kind of like they know, just make your own way. In Europe, man, it's not like that. Like everybody here wants to work for someone else, which is ironic because they all think they're going to fight against the man, but they're all happy to join the man for a salary and a Starbucks every month. It's like there's no desire to do anything with your life apart from get that kind of menial salary and then go on holiday for 6 weeks to because they'll get like typically once you add all their leave cycles up, it'll probably end up like a go on holiday to some kind of like really cheap boozy type location where they can just get pissed and act like morons for twice a year. And as long as they got that, it's all good, man. It's all good.
Yeah.
Like, just do that with your life.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, especially in France where I am, I think you need at least 2 million euros cash just to feel like a human being. Like just to have, like
Oh, it's
you,
expensive.
it's super expensive. Like to live well, you need, I
Mm,
would say, 20 million euros in assets without debt, right? 20 million euros
mm.
is, guys, it's like 400 million rand, right?
Yeah,
In
it's
in South
well,
in South Africa, you can do
it's
away with,
decent money. Yeah.
yeah. In South Africa, you can live very well off a tenth of that easily, and I think you can make it
Yeah.
easier in South Africa than here in France.
Yeah, I think though that the counter argument that people would probably throw at you is this you're more likely to be able to earn those millions in Europe. But not really. I mean, like
Not a
there's a
chance.
false sense of kind of earning potential in Europe because like your salaries are typically more. And I know that that's the comments we're going to get in the comments. Oh, you guys don't know what you're talking about. This, I earn so much more money, but you kind of don't because when you take out, again, I spoke to you about this ages ago. But when you take into account the average salary in the UK, the average salary in the UK is probably between 25 to 30,000 a year for like kind of like a kind of middle range. Then if you put that into rands, that's 600,000 rand. Now, the lifestyle you could live on 600,000 rand, man. Like, you could be the only breadwinner in the house. You could live a good lifestyle. You could look after your family, etc. Right? That stuff's all okay. Like, you could easily do that in South Africa, but in Europe, no, man. That salary is you're in an apartment, you're sharing with people, on your own. That is, like, you're
Yeah.
sharing with people. Maybe you're affording your rent.
Maybe you have one
Use your
car,
food.
maybe.
Like, there's nothing special with that salary. That salary is distinctly like you're living a very average life. And I suppose that in itself is the crux of the matter. What does average in Europe look like?
Mm.
And it is like it's an apartment where it's like a one bedroom apartment in a busy kind of city or around those locations. It's public transport. It's okay, maybe you can eat out at a cafe, like, and you can go buy some food somewhere. I wouldn't call it spacious lifestyle. I mean, imagine
No.
being locked up or locked down in these kind of locations, man. You'd shoot yourself.
Yeah, I mean, I know I would, but I can't have a gun here, so probably not. I found more creative ways to do that. But I mean, anyway, I mean, this video is not
Uh,
a particular news story. It's just that, ladies and gentlemen, I mean, if you really are considering like moving because it's safer, whatever, sometimes there are other elements that you need to consider as well. It's like, what type of society do you want to live in? Do you want to live in a South African one, in which you can, enclose a group of people which are entrepreneurial, risk takers, strategic, and basically stateless? Or you can come here where everything works and everything's
well, ish,
consistent, and you won't have
ish.
excitement. Well, everything works ish, right? You won't have
Yeah, I mean,
excitement.
even on that front, man. Like, I could interrupt you there and just say, like, a
Right.
lot of people come here because of that argument that you've just made. Oh, everything works, but like, does it? So I'm gonna give you 4 examples. They'll be quick. We won't take long, but
Yeah.
4 examples. Number one, South Africa moans about, let's say, the central firearm register. It takes forever to get a firearm registered, right? I did a shotgun renewal because I got shotguns, and I did a renewal here for my shotgun. Man, it took me 6 months to get the paperwork through. 6 months. And why was that? There was no reason. The guy came to my house. He did all the interviews with me. He asked all the relevant questions. Look at the safe, all that kind of stuff. Because you could say, oh, it works. So at least they come and do that stuff. 6 months to send me the paperwork. In that time, my guns had to stay in the safe, mate, because they were technically not licensed or whatever you want to call it. But it was an approved renewal. There's nothing special about it. 6 months. Number two, DVLA. DVLA is the equivalent of like the licensing department. And DVLA, like, their backlog on licenses now. Like, we've got a huge problem in the UK with HGV drivers. There's a huge shortage. But why is that? Well, the answer isn't because there's not a shortage of HGV drivers. DVLA has striked and striked and striked as a government department because they struck a lot. And as a result, they're like 6 months behind on issuing the licenses. So what does that mean? It means that you can't have drivers driving around with freaking food. So there's a huge kind of like delivery shortage and driver problem here because of a government department that doesn't work properly. Number three, load shedding. There are alerts. I've sent them to you. There are alerts here right now. They are predicting load shedding in the UK for 2023. And they are already, and you didn't want to cover this as a story, so I'm going to insert it here. But there was a story where they actually went through to South Africa, of all places, to see how do you make load shedding palatable to your people. Like, how do you sell it to them so that they don't riot? Because that's what they're predicting, man. And like, this is a place where everything works. Wait till there's no electricity for 2 hours, man. Like, we're going to see pandemonium. On the same guise, we're now in a drought. Yeah, an island where it rains like God's pissing over the place permanently. It's like it just rains here all the time, and we're in a drought. And why are we in a drought? Oh, because the government didn't spend any money on infrastructure. Does that sound familiar? Like, the infrastructure hasn't been upgraded. So as a result, we're in a drought, and they're talking of water shedding. And they've done this before. They did it in the 70s. The 70s, when you remember, just before Margaret Thatcher came in and banned all the unions because the place was going to shit. They've done it before. And then number four is like, you've been to this place and try arrived at an airport, man. Like, in Heathrow Airport, there were articles going round and round and round telling you if you fly in here, do not check your bag in because you're not getting your bag. Like there was such a big shortage of bag workers everywhere, which basically meant the bag workers were all striking because they wanted more money. And you're like, you couldn't get your bag out there, man. Like if you flew in here, you were waiting for days before you even got your bag. I'm not being funny, but I get a better service at an airport, at Johannesburg Airport. Like it's crazy. And that's not even to take into account passport control and security checks and all the other rubbish that goes with it. So, I mean, you look at these things and you're like, these are four really simple things where everybody goes, oh, well, at least it works. Well, what works? They got the same problems that we do, man. You might look at it and go, oh, well, you know, they don't have gangsters running around shooting each other. South Africa is a big fucking place. This is not a big place. It's a small little place. Smaller than the size of California. And you're like, well, kind of look at the shit that does go on here, though. Gangs running around London with axes and people in Glasgow killing each other with axes and axe gangs and knifing each other. And like, it ain't that safe, man. Like, it's all cool. If you can't get a job in South Africa because of BE or whatever, and you got a job abroad, like, man, nobody disputes that. Like, if you get that, go for it. Like, have a nice laugh, have a cool existence. But kind of like that whole, oh, I'm going there because it works. Like, you're deluding yourself, man. You're deluding yourself. It don't
Yeah.
work like you think it does.
Yeah, no, it doesn't. And also, I think the mindset must be if you are leaving South Africa, the mindset is not just, I'm leaving this hellhole. You must be like, I'm going because I prefer the way of life in Europe. And you must understand the constraints of that particular way of life. It will never work for me. Byron, you've tried it and come back. It doesn't work for you. And so, yeah, just be wary of that. As two experienced travelers to Europe, this ain't home, my friend. This ain't home. And who
No,
knows? It might be home for you one day, but just be wary. It's not as rosy as it looks.
no, and I think another. Don't want to go on and about it, but actually, I think you'll understand this even being in France. I mean, obviously, I'm in England, so I have a different experience. But I've got a family member in South Africa that's like, I really want to go to England. I really want to go to England. It would be lovely. And I'm like, this lady. I'm not going to name who it is, but this lady is a huge Pentecostal, massive church every Sunday, huge, big. All her friends are from her church. She goes to some Bible study once a week. She goes to some prayer group once a week. She's a massive Pentecostal. You come to England, which is technically a Christian country, and the same for France. France is a Christian country because it's surrounded by cathedrals and stuff. Have you noticed how much of a Christian element there is here? Doesn't exist, mate.
Yeah,
Doesn't exist.
zero.
Like fuck all. And swear to God, man, you go to some kind of person and even offer to pray, you're going to be in the courts for discrimination or something. Like if it's in your workplace, you're getting fired. So what I don't understand is how people will tell you these are big aspects of their life and their culture of who they are, fundamentally who they are. But South Africa's a hellhole, so let's go to a place that doesn't have any kind of similarities in culture
Yeah,
at all. And where assimilating means basically giving up a core part of who you are. Because you ain't going to go to churches like you do in South Africa. You ain't going to have that prayer group. You're not going to sit at a coffee table and be able to discuss biblical whatever and have a prayer group. It's not going to happen
yeah, that's
because
true.
this isn't the culture that you live in.
That's right.
So you
Whereas
have
in,
to go, okay, well,
go ahead, sorry.
sorry, go for it.
No, no. So I'm just
Whereas,
saying, like in South Africa, there are so many voids to fill with what you want and how you want to live your life. You can do it so much easier.
yeah,
In Europe, it's a monoculture. Like it's atheist. It's based on equality, and you have to, you know, there's a national religion on what it means to be British or what it means to be French or anything like that. In a very narrow band of ideology, and if you don't
very much.
follow that, you don't feel welcome at all.
No. But again, like South Africans won't understand that because they haven't had to embrace Rousseau's idea of repressive tolerance. Like that is a huge idea here in Europe. And repressive tolerance basically means that we are so tolerant that we repress you for having ideas that don't embrace our tolerance. You know what I mean? So it's like join the LGBT whatever alphabet people, okay? But if you don't follow it, that's not allowed, man. You can't say I don't agree with this because you will go to court for a hate crime speech or whatever bullshit they want to class it as. If you want to turn around and say, I don't want open borders. We should have like controlled immigration. We shouldn't have it. Like, we're so tolerant and welcome people in that you cannot voice concern against that. You cannot say, no, I don't want uncontrolled immigration. You will go to court for a hate crime. You will have the police at your door. And so that kind of like constant constraint. I mean, could you imagine in South Africa, the police turn up to your house because you posted a mean tweet?
A
Like,
mean tweet, yeah. You would laugh at them.
you'd laugh at them,
And
but
they
it
would laugh,
actually happens here.
and they would laugh with you, right? If they even
Yeah.
rock up in the first place, which is probably zero. But yeah, no, I agree. I agree. Anyway, Byron, this is 20 minutes. But this is enough of a rant. Basic premises. We're both in Europe. Don't move here. I mean, unless you're really certain. But yeah, it's not the best thing in the world.
And if you're watching from Europe, go home. Just go home.
We need 50-50 equality in schools, white and black. So we need to go home, guys. Come on.
That's referenced by the... Yeah, that's a reference to a video we did before on Ndili Sisulu.
Yeah, there we go.
That's not us being racist.
No, not like it's ANC policy, guys. We approve of it. So there you go. Well, we welcome the dislike ratio on this video. Thanks for watching, everyone. We'll see you in the next one. All the best. Cheers.
Bye.